Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. Are you kidding me? Playoffs? The regular season is over, and these teams, in fact, did win a game, so they are fighting for the Super Bowl. Wow, we have already reached that point in the season, and in today's video, I'm going to go over my entire playoff bracket, who I think will win it all. I want to briefly start with those who have been tuning in the whole season. Quick recap what my record was this season, as well as we have the guest picker who was the best for this season after last week's games. So I'm going to start with that quickly, and then we're going to jump into the playoff discussion here. Let's start with me. Last week I went 9-7, putting my overall record to 170 and 102. Better than last year, and hopefully next year will be better than this. Just hoping to keep getting better as we do this throughout the years. And I was 28 of 61 on underdog picks. Definitely something I'm going to look to improve next year. Now the guest picker standings. We had a lot of ties going into last week. We had 2 people tied for first, 2 people tied for third, and anyone else was in the mix. Wow, the standings shook up a little bit last week, and we certainly broke pretty much all of the ties. We had 2 people at 10-4, but one of them decided, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to break O'Reilly's Redzone guest picker record. I'm already in first place, but let me just go ahead and take the lead even further. Andrew went 14-2 last week on his picks, and he was already in first place. So that gave him a 24-6 overall record. So congratulations, Andrew. You take home the championship, and you can see the rest of the standings here. We're hoping to get more guest pickers on next year as well, so we'll bring that back. But now we're in the present day. Let's talk about the playoffs. We've already reached that point in the season, and of course we're going to start with the wild card games. I am just going to go kind of from each side of the bracket and give my takes on who I think will win. And of course, like the past, I'm just doing one video for the playoffs. And of course, how it works, if I do get a game wrong, it changes the whole thing. But the point here is going to be who I think are the best teams and get to the end there and get to that last dance to potentially win the championship. So let's start on the AFC side. Let's talk about this Houston versus Cleveland matchup. And this one, I think, should be a great game. Of course, Deshaun Watson not playing, so you don't have that storyline per se, but you do have Joe Flacco trying to prove himself. You have the rookie head coach and quarterback for Houston trying to prove themselves. I think it's going to be a very, very fun game to watch. And the Texans being at home certainly is something that makes a potential advantage for them. These 2 teams played already this season, but CJ Stroud was not healthy. So this is a completely different game than what happened that week. And so the Browns won pretty convincingly last time, but now that Stroud is healthy, they have a little bit of magic. I took them on the road last week, even though my power ranking said to take the Colts at home. I just knew that CJ Stroud is a different playmaker right now. He's playing really, really well, and their defense is doing just enough to win. But talk about defense, and that might be what the definition of the Cleveland Browns is. They're playing phenomenal defense this season. And the thing is, though, I've talked about it, the Browns before. They just need an okay play from the quarterback position, and they can make a run at this thing. But Joe Flacco has been playing better than all right. He's actually elevating this offense, which is what has made them such an electric team. And so this one's tough, where I feel the magic in Houston right now. They are going to be a dangerous team to come for years. I'd say this is in the top 2 most difficult matchups to predict in the wild card for sure. It changes things that Houston's at home, but I'm going to take the Browns on the road, the 5 seed here, taking the potential upset. I don't think it's an upset odds-wise or spread-wise, but the seed upset here, the road team getting the victory in that one. But that should be very, very fun. Can Joe Flacco be elite in the playoffs like, 10 years ago he was? That's crazy that we're talking about that again. But let's go to the next AFC matchup, which is the Chiefs and the Dolphins. These 2 teams have kind of been on a downward slope, in my opinion. Neither have... I'd say the Dolphins have shown complete explosive ability at times this season, but then they just fall apart in these big games. And the Chiefs have not really been able to build a strong connection on offense besides Mahomes and Kelsey, and even Kelsey is not playing as much as he was at one point. And so you're really wondering about that fluidity. But I'll tell you this, as the Chiefs' offense has maybe been struggling, their defense is starting to play pretty well. And for that reason, I think that they are turning into a team that can, at any moment, if you get Patrick Mahomes on his A game, which he is 95% of the time, that might be enough to make some magic and get a win. So the Dolphins have shown at times to light up the scoreboard, but on the road, even though they are going to maybe get some of their playmakers healthy, their edge rush room is absolutely decimated. It's really unfortunate. They've had to sign some veterans. They're bringing back the Madden 25 All-Star team with like Justin Houston and Bruce Irvin. And so I'm going to go with the Chiefs at home here. I just think that there's a chance Kansas City could go all the way. I don't think there is for Miami. I just haven't seen them compete in big games, which is unfortunate for them. But they still, for years to come, have that quarterback. They have their coach combo. They'll be all right. Bills and Steelers. The Bills have been playing like maybe the best team in football. You can make that case in the last month. For sure, a top 5 team guaranteed. And they are absolutely rolling. And I'm going to preface this. I have absolutely fallen for the Bills before. I have picked them. I believe there was a stretch where 3 prediction videos in a row, including the preseason and the postseason, I took the Bills to win the Super Bowl. And that didn't happen. But I think that they are a dangerous team this year, and this could be the one that they actually go all the way. The Steelers are playing very, very good defense, but now that you potentially lose TJ Watt, it's questionable if he's going to play. I think he might be heavily leaned out at that point. And so it looks like they're going to go with Mason Rudolph, which I think I understand with that. He's been playing pretty well over the last while, but I'm going to go with the Bills here. I just believe that they have more momentum right now going into the playoffs, which is exactly what you need to be doing. It doesn't matter how you start the season, it's how you finish. So let's jump to the NFC side of the bracket now, starting with another 4-5 game. We have the Bucks and the Eagles. Now, the Bucks have been so up and down. I've never really fully jumped on the wagon. I'd say 2 weeks ago, and I finally thought, okay, this is a legit team. They lost, that game to the Saints. So, I honestly just don't think the Bucks are an elite team, but being at home definitely could change things. And the thing is, Baker can absolutely take fire at any point. But right now, I'm going to have to say that they have even only winning 9-0 last week against the Panthers. I mean, and they were gifted that game too. I mean, you had some fumbles in the end zone from the Panthers, just some plays that didn't go their way. I genuinely am concerned about the Bucks. I am also very concerned about the Eagles, which is what makes this game tough. The Eagles have been playing, in my opinion, of the playoff teams, probably maybe the worst over the last month. I mean, they are slipping games. There's maybe locker room concerns. You've got whether the whole difference, and I've seen people say this, and I actually agree with this, like A.J. Brown, whether he's going to be healthy or not for Monday is key. And for the Bucks, it's unfortunate that they play on the Monday because that gives A.J. Brown some extra time to get healthy, and that could absolutely be the game changer in this matchup. So I'm going to go here, even though they've been struggling. I think the Eagles have a more consistent roster. I think literally the Bucks are probably one of the only teams I would pick the Eagles over right now, and I think I'm going to do that, even though the Eagles are playing really, really poor as of late. There's only about 2 teams I'd pick the Eagles over, and that they're one of the 2. So I'm going to go with the Eagles in that matchup. Next, I'm going to go here to the Lions and the Rams. And this has so many storylines that this has to be the most anticipated game of the weekend. We've got Matthew Stafford's return to Detroit. We've got Jared Goff facing off against his former team. Oh, this game is going to be so exciting. I mean, the Lions finally get to host a playoff game for the first time in like 30 years. But it might be a little bit of a homecoming for Matthew Stafford. This is one where this is the only game out of all the playoff picks that I'm straying away from my formula. And for that reason, it may end up, not working out. But I just think that there is a magic right now that is flowing with the Los Angeles Rams at the moment. If there's any team nobody wants to play, they are maybe that wild card team. I think it would have been the Bills if they were in the wild card. But right now, if you look at all the wild card teams, I have to say the Rams might be the most dangerous. So they've got something going. I think Stafford's going to have a lot to prove. I know the Lions are going to have a lot to prove, though, too. They're going to be at home trying to prove that they belong there. They went 12-5. I just, for this year, if they can get a playoff win, that changes everything for the Lions, and you'll start seeing it. But right now, I just think that I am a little concerned about, I mentioned it last week, and they did still win the game, but the emotional kind of turnover from that Cowboys game, but also their defense right now, I'm really questioning. The fact that CeeDee Lamb went absolutely off against the Lions. The fact that Justin Jefferson in like a half had over 100 yards. Like, in their defense allowed Nick Mullins to throw for hundreds of yards multiple times. I mean, I think it was 700 to 800 total. I mean, I'm concerned for that defense. And you don't think that Matthew Stafford with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp is going to come light that defense up? I have to believe that's going to happen. So I think my only actual spread upset for the week is the Rams over the Lions here. So I'm going to go with the Rams in this one. Should be a fun game to watch. I think it's going to be the best wildcard game of the weekend. And let's close with the Cowboys and the Packers. Another one with some storylines. We've got Mike McCarthy playing against his former team, or I should say coaching against his former team. His squad is playing the Packers, and the Packers have been playing really, really well as of late. Jordan Love has that team rolling. This is one where I think if the Packers played any other team in the wild card, like on that side of the bracket, I would maybe think about taking them here. But I think that the Cowboys, although they've been up and down, I don't know how far they're going to get in the playoffs, but I think at least in the early stages, on paper, their team is worthy of a really, really strong, far playoff run. So I'm looking at their defense, and I think it's legit. I think Dak is playing really, really well with CeeDee Lamb right now. The Packers, I still think Jordan Love is playing phenomenal. He's getting it done on offense. I still am questionable about their defense, though. So against the Cowboys here, I'm going to go with the Cowboys at home, and that sets up our divisional round of matchups. So the only I have, a couple upsets there. I suppose looking at the seeds now, because now looking how this next round would work out. Let's go back to the AFC. We've got the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns. So a divisional matchup here. We've got Joe Flacco returning to Baltimore, which would be very, very fun to watch. I'm going to tell you, this entire playoff ride is going to be on the shoulders of Joe Flacco, and that's not to put too much pressure on him. He's been there before. But as I said, I believe in my preseason video, but otherwise throughout the season, as I also mentioned in this video, the quarterback play for the Browns is key. The Browns defense is so good. This is what makes the difference between a playoff and a Super Bowl team. If they just have a game manager at quarterback, we knew they were going to make a playoffs because they are a great team. And I even think they can get to the divisional round with just an okay game. But this is where, if you're going against the Ravens, your former team, this is where Joe Flacco has to put up a lifetime performance, because I will tell you, I think that this Ravens team is legit. I have them ranked number 1 in the power rankings for a reason. I think that they have a strong roster, a strong team, and a strong amount of star players who can get it done. So it's going to take an electric performance from Joe Flacco, and I think he'd put up a good game against the Ravens in this situation, but I believe the Ravens are a team that is certainly dangerous and has the potential to go to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to take the Ravens over the Browns if this were to happen, but probably a very, very fun game because that Browns defense is no slouch. So it's all going to come down to how Joe Flacco plays, and I'm not going to doubt him. I think he will have actually a very, very good game in that matchup, but I think it could come down to a Justin Tucker field goal there. The Bills and the Chiefs, this one, as I mentioned earlier, the Chiefs could go all the way because they have the best quarterback in football, Patrick Mahomes. At the same time, they have struggled. Their defense is good enough, though. The Bills are playing like a different animal, but they've been, kind of kryptonite a little bit. The Chiefs have stopped them in the playoffs before in that overtime matchup. And so I really, it's like, can they get it done? Can the Bills finally make that next step and really go against it? And I have to say, in this matchup, I think that Josh Allen and his offense is playing really well, and the Chiefs' offense is struggling a little bit. I think that's enough for the Bills here to get a victory over the Chiefs. The Chiefs could go all the way, as mentioned. So that's what's hard here. But I believe the Bills are a team that is gaining momentum, and this is a year that they actually do have a shot at going all the way. And we'll see. You'll see if I, bite that bullet again or potentially shoot that shot and go for the Bills again to win the Super Bowl. I've done it before. Could they do it again? We'll see here. Let's flip to the NFC side, where now we have 2 games which both are divisional matchups. So we've seen these before. The Niners and the Rams. If there's a team that's put up a fight against the Niners, the Rams have done pretty well. I just think, though, the Niners, they need to play well. This could get really, really dangerous. Oh, even looking at it, I'm questioning it here. Like, the Rams are a team that has been there before. And I haven't seen the consistent playoff performance, obviously, from the Niners, although that they made it all the way to the NFC Championship before they were hurt last year. Here's the deal. It's just like we talked with the Browns. You just need okay quarterback play. And I'm saying this. Brock Purdy is playing a good game like every 5 out of 6. So you don't need, there's not 6 games here. You only have to win 4. So if you can just get a good game, I mean, you only, in their case, only have to win 3 games. Like, if they can get 3 good games from Brock Purdy, they could go all the way. But if they hit the one bad game, they're going to be a first team out. That's how it's going to go. And I think the Rams could put up a serious fight here. If there were a team to be upset, I have to say I'm even looking at it right now, and I'm really tempted to look at that Rams team as going really, really far. I just think, though, for the risk and reward, it's like a 75% chance I think the Niners win that. But that 25%, it's like the Rams could certainly put up a fight here. I think it could go either way. And you know what? It's just, I'm thinking about it. But do I do this? I think that if there's any team that could give the Niners some trouble in the playoffs, it's the Rams. I'm going to make the play. I'm going to stick to formula here, and I'm going to go with the Niners. But I had to reconsider that because this is a tough game. I'm just thinking for the chances of it going right, there's a chance the Rams lose in the first round. And so if I put the Rams all the way to the NFC Championship, I have to feel really confident in that, and I just don't quite get that level. I think the Niners are a better team, but as mentioned, it's all going to come down. If you get the one bad game from Brock Purdy, that might send the Niners home. So I'm going to go with the 49ers, but the Rams are dangerous, and I really think if we see them put up an electric performance in the wild card, could be enough there. Cowboys, Eagles. I've talked about it. I think the Eagles are struggling. Both teams have won the matchup this year. But the Cowboys, although they historically in the last decade haven't quite gotten the playoffs, been their strongest time of the year, I think that could change this year. I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys here against the Eagles. I just think it's more so the Eagles are not very great, in my opinion, this season, and they got lucky that they have to match up against the Bucs here because the NFC wild card was a little weak record-wise, so they just kind of slid in there. I'm going to go with the Cowboys here. So I do have 1 versus 2 seeds in the championships, but I just think that is the most likely scenario of what will happen. Let's talk about this AFC Championship, Ravens and Bills. Whew, this is a tough game to select, and I just have to say, I think the Ravens, on paper, they're playing like the best team in football right now. And so for that reason, I think I'm going to lean that direction. But the Bills, Josh Allen, at any point, can put up an electric performance. But I think that I've seen more bad games from the Bills than the Ravens. And as I was talking about with the Niners on that side, I really think the playoffs here comes down to not necessarily, I mean, it can a lot of times come to who's going to step up, but I also think it's just who kind of defeats themselves. You can't make mistakes. If it comes down to the fourth quarter, you're going to need to elevate yourself, but honestly, if you dig yourself a hole, it's hard to get out. So if you can just keep it a close game or even take the lead for a majority of that game, you can close it. But I'm just taking a look at the risks here. And you got to get the right stretch of games to really go the whole way. And so I'm going to go with the Ravens over the Bills here. I've got the Ravens going to the Super Bowl. And it might be a little bit of flashbacks. I've taken the Bills a couple times before and they haven't quite delivered. And so for that reason, I'm going to go with the Ravens here. So I have the Ravens as one of the teams in the Super Bowl. And now on the NFC side, I have even changed my mind here. Talking about it, the more we discuss this. And we've seen bad games from both the Cowboys and the Niners, but honestly, I think that we've seen more close losses or kind of destroyed by the Niners. And I know this is kind of interesting because the Niners destroyed the Cowboys this season. But I think going twice, just looking at that stretch, I don't know if Brock Purdy is going to be able to play that many games at an elite level. I think he will be solid. But I think one interception could be the difference in this game. I think Micah Parsons, specifically on defense, can be an absolute threat. You're a DeRon Bland pick 6 away from making this a different game. I'm going to go off script because I also think just going basic here isn't going to actually happen. I don't know. I think the Ravens and the Niners are playing like the two best teams, but it doesn't always show that way. It's who plays best on any given Sunday. So for that reason, I'm going to flip it and go to the Cowboys to make the Super Bowl, which they haven't gotten it done in the playoffs in a while. But I think that this could happen here. Their defense is playing well. Dak is playing at the best in his career. CeeDee Lamb is a threat at receiver. I'm going to flip it. Although it's very, very likely the Niners can make it there, I just see that there is a potential for one bad game and it could end it all. I just think that could happen, and so for that reason, I'm going to go with the Cowboys to face off against the Ravens in the Super Bowl. This would be a very, very fun matchup, and let's get into it. Can Micah Parsons and that defense stop Lamar Jackson? That would be an entertaining matchup for sure. But it might be more so, can Dak do anything against that Ravens defense? I mean, they are playing lights out right now. This is really, I think, a tale of two giants here. And two teams that really have shown dominance this season. And I really think it would be a fun matchup, but I think the Ravens have the advantage on both sides of the ball in this one. I think that the Ravens, we've seen it when they even took down the Niners. Even if this was the Niners in this game, I think the Ravens are the best team in football right now. They are just a little bit more purely good, that they are winning at the line of scrimmage. They have a creative flow, but they can run the ball. They can pass the ball. I think Lamar is still a little bit underrated, whereas I think that San Francisco is going to have to go more finesse, or even Dallas here is really going to have to look at creative ways to get past them. And I don't see another team from the NFC side that really can hard-nose go up against the Ravens and potentially get a win there. So I think the Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl this year, and we're going to have a Harbaugh brothers sweep in the championship games with Jim, of course, taking home the national championship this week. And then John Harbaugh, I've got winning the Super Bowl. What would that be? About a month later? So those are my picks for the Super Bowl and the playoffs. It's been a great ride with you guys this season for the NFL. It might be a little bit till the next video, as now I don't have serious deadline to get a pick video out every week, but I'm still going to be working on some stuff here. Still have to get out the last grocery games. First grocery games, and potentially I'm going to make it one series, but you'll see that there. I'm going to have that coming out, as well as now we're going to transition a little bit to maybe some free agency talk, some draft talk as well. I'm looking forward to a lot as well. So thank you very much for tuning into this video, and I will see you in the next one.